Hello, my name is Celeste and welcome to my sewing corner. Today I am participating in the challenge 5 questions, 1 take, no editing. And I found this on a channel, another sewist channel called Marie Made This. I will include her link down below. And apparently this has been a challenge that has been going on since October of 2021, and I'm a little late to the party. So I thought I would share my answers to the 5 questions, and I will present this video without editing. So we'll see how this goes. So let me read the first question to you if you're not familiar with the questions that have been passed around to many sewists on YouTube. So I have to use my little glasses here to be able to see this clearly today. Number 1, what has your sewing journey look like? When did you start sewing? Who taught you? Any breaks, etc.? So I guess really I began my sewing journey maybe in preschool. My mother used to buy me those lacing cards that you could find, and I would sit down beside her when she was sewing my clothes because we were very poor, and so she made all my clothes, handmade clothes. So I would sit beside her with my little lacing cards, and I would begin my little sewing that way. Later on, when I was 8 years old, I expressed an interest in sewing. So my maternal grandmother gave me her machine that she was no longer using. It was an old black Singer sewing machine that had that huge wheel on the side. And so I began a few projects with that, having my mother be my teacher. So she taught me, was my first sewing teacher. And then when she saw that I really liked sewing, she signed me up for a few classes when we were living in Florida. And I began learning from somebody else, maybe because my mother, maybe I was too hard of a student. Maybe she didn't have enough patience with me. But that would be my summer activity that I would do, because we really didn't do a lot of summer camps when I was a child. I only remember going to 2 summer camps. It was just, not, it wasn't affordable for us at the time. So we went to it was like forgot what the fabric store, TG&Y, I think, had some sewing classes. I could be wrong on that, but that's where I went to sewing classes. So I did that through elementary school, and then took a home ec class my 8th grade year in middle school. Back then it was junior high school. I really didn't do a lot of sewing in high school or in college, but after I graduated from college, I was a public school teacher in Texas, and as we all know, in America, teachers are not paid very much. And so in order to have appropriate clothing to wear as a teacher, then I continued making that, as well as my mother helped me make some of my other dresses that I wore to teach school in. Then I went to graduate school, so then I took a little break from that, and then started my sewing journey back up again. Shortly after that, just doing really some crafty things. And then more recently in the last 10 years, I really wanted to learn some new sewing techniques. So I took some quilting classes. I've made a few quilts, and I've restarted my journey on making clothing and pillowcases. Actually, for the past 15 years, I make pillowcases every Christmas for my nephews and nieces. So that's kind of been my journey along the way with sewing. So let's look at the second question of this, and that is, describe your sewing space. Where is it? Do you keep it a hot mess or spick and span? Well, my sewing corner is right behind here, and I keep it tidy. Right now I have a couple of projects that I'm working on, and so I'll keep those out, but I try to keep it pretty clean and spick and span, I guess, to use the appropriate term from the question, because this is part of a larger space, and this goes into question number 3. Where is your sewing space? And describe it. So I am actually, yes, sewing space number 2. So I am in a bonus room. as you can see. So we watch games up here. My husband over to this side, let me use the right one, has a little office that he was working on another master's degree. And so it's really a multiple use room. So I have one corner of it, and that's where I sew. It's a little interesting because I'm accustomed to having really an entire room for sewing. But when we moved into this house, we decided to combine the space because I like to sew while my husband is watching games and I'm listening to some of the football games or basketball games on TV. So it's really kind of a nice way just to kind of still be together, talk about things, and I'm able to keep busy. It's hard for me to keep still when I'm watching TV unless I'm really, really, really tired. So that's where I sew currently. Okay, question number 3. What is it like to be a sewing YouTuber? Does it meet your expectations? Is how you thought it would be, reaction from others, etc.? Well, I mean, I really don't consider myself really a true YouTuber in that, I have millions of followers type of thing. I'm kind of really beginning as a YouTuber, but I have enjoyed it because I've been able to share things that I've learned or things that I'm doing. I've received positive reactions from people, and I really appreciate people complimenting things that I have shared with them along the way. And I think my tubing experience is growing. I have learned quite a bit. My first YouTube video, and I look back on that, thought, oh my goodness, how did anybody watch it? So I've learned some new skills along the way, which I like doing. I've learned some new editing skills and trying some new things out. So it's slowly growing, and I would love for you to subscribe if you haven't. But it's a neat platform just to kind of share. And I really enjoy listening to other people who share about their sewing journeys. And that inspires me because, as we know, if you've been a sewer for any length of time, sometimes you just lose your sojo. That's what I call it. And so I'm inspired by listening to other people's journey and what they're working on, and maybe some techniques that they have learned that has really simplified some of the patterns that they were doing, color combinations that maybe I would never have thought of, but when they put it together, it really made sense. And so I'm inspired, and that kind of keeps me going with my sewing journey there. Okay, question number 4. Describe your most memorable project, total fail, biggest success, etc. Well, when I think about maybe my successes, I think more of my childhood, and I pulled a couple of those. So from that sewing class that I mentioned earlier, one of the first things that we did was we made these pillowcases. And I think it's more like a sateen type of thing with lace on it. So this is my pillowcase that I made for myself. And I look back through here, and I did pretty good with the straight stitches and everything. So I was really proud of that. I think that was one of the first things that I made, and it looked good, and I still have it. And I was just really proud of that accomplishment. In fact, so proud that Christmas, I made pillowcases for all of my grandparents. And I had, at that time, 6 grandparents because my mother's parents divorced and remarried. And when my maternal grandparents passed away, I did find one of these pillowcases that they still had. And when I was in high school, my grandfather's or granddaddy's wife, she was my grandmother, even though technically she's my step grandmother, she was still my grandmother. I knew her from early preschool years on, so I considered her my grandmother. But I was helping her put away some linens in her linen closet, and she still had that. And I said, why are you keeping this? She goes, it's one of my favorite pillowcases, especially after I get my hair done. It helps keep that. So that was really a proud moment, a success. Another success that I had was in that same sewing class, I made this bag. It needs to be ironed, and I put my initials on it there. And so this bag I used every single week. There are still some stains on here, but we lived in Florida at the time, actually in Panama City, and I would ride my bicycle from my house to my piano teacher's house, and it probably was like a mile. Um, Back when time to do that. And so to carry my piano books, I had them in this bag, and I put it on my handlebars, and cycled to my teacher's class, and she had some water for me because in Florida it gets hot. And then I did my piano lessons and put all my books back in my bag, and she gave me a little bit more water, and then I cycled back to my house. So those were some proud moments for me. A total fail was probably 5 or 6 years ago. I was really into making thematic pajama bottoms. So I had winter ones, and then I would go to Walmart to get a matching t-shirt. And then I had some Valentine ones and spring ones and 4th of July pajama bottoms. And I was making some pajama bottoms with my favorite college football team. And just, wasn't even paying attention. And when I laid out the pattern, got it all perfect, did the straight of grain type of things, and I cut it out, the pattern was upside down. So rather than having the school logo right side up, it was right side down. And so that was a total fail. So now I have to pay more attention because it was just kind of, wasn't even thinking. And so that was a total fail. I couldn't use that to laugh about those. All right, 5th and final question for this 5 questions, 1 take journey here. What is the one quote, saying, or piece of advice you've gotten that resonates with your sewing YouTube success? I think the one is that keep learning, keep trying. My parents always told me that, when I was intimidated by something that I've never done before, and I was afraid of failing or not being one of the best. I guess I'm really a type A personality. Perfection. So I am on this YouTube channel. I am learning to show who I really am, because I think that encourages other people. That we don't have to get it right the first time. This is a work in progress. So through this channel, I have kept learning. I'm learning from other YouTubers and reading different sources of how to improve my videos, and keep trying new things. I'm adding some new things throughout my videos just to see how that works, and how to try some different things. So that's what I've kind of learned through this process. So that is my answers. Those are my answers to the 5 questions, 1 take. And I would love to hear your comments. What are your answers to these questions? So comment below, and thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, I would love to invite you to subscribe to my channel where I talk about my life as a wifepreneur. So until next time, happy sewing.